Okay, now let's start with the first topic, watches. Do you like to wear watches?
You know, I don't have a particular fondness for watches, but I do have a wristwatch. It's an electric watch with black leather strap. And it greatly assists me in effectively managing my time and keeping track of my tasks at school or at work.
Okay, so why do many people like to wear expensive watches?
You know, um, Luxurious watches with exorbitantly high prices, such as Rolex, are often connected with the image of, success and power. So I think the people they who bought it, they want to show up and flaunt their wealth and their social status. Simply because no ordinary person wants to buy such extravagant items.
Alright. So have you ever received a watch as a gift?
Um, well, actually, nobody has given me a timepiece as a present, But so when I think about it, my father's birthday is around the corner, so I'm considering giving him one.
Alright. So a watch a, is a watch popular gift in your country?
Um, Not really, I don't have the exact statistic to back it up, but I think it totally depends on the age group that we're talking about. So, as today, about today's generation, they have many different devices to keep track of time, such as smartphone and such like. But when we're talking about the elderly, so the watches are probably prevalent amongst them simply because they often don't know how to make use of computers or smartphones.
Alright. So do you think like selling watches will be a lucrative business?
Um, I think that can be the case, simply because more people want to buy watches to show up their social standing, like I said before. So many expensive watches are closely associated with the glamorous image of power. So that could be the case.
Alright. Now let's hear my comments for what you've just said. First of all, let's talk about fluency. Um, it's kind of like you use, quite a lot of time. Try to avoid it. You can use it sometimes, but not for so many times.
Yeah.
Next one, when talking about regarding the today's generation and in terms of another generation, you can use these two words. And simply because, do you have any other words to rephrase?
Due to the fact that
Anything else?
um, okay, let me think about it.
Or X?
Cause
Cause,
okay,
good.
yeah,
Cause
okay,
or since X.
okay.
Yeah. So if you wanna express because, you can use it simply because, as since. Try to use about 3 words to take turn while speaking to make sure that you have like a variety of discourse markers and like connectives, right?
Yes.
It's given power. Okay. Now let's move on to computers. How
Computer.
often do you use a computer?
Um, you know, this is the era of information, so I probably use computers all the time. It's like my second nature now. So I'm so used to it, and I can't even imagine my life without it.
So what happens if you don't use a computer one day?
You know, without computer, my life would be pretty miserable. You know, the world would be a really unhappy place for me, simply because I have to handwrite all of the lessons of my classes in my university. You know, and this is a real pain. You know, and don't forget to mention that I would be unable to play my favorite games on computer. So that would be a real pain.
All right. Okay, next one. In which situations would it be like difficult for you to use a computer?
You know, so as a student, I have to read a lot of material online, and you know, so in some day I have to glue my eyes to the screen for hours on end, and after that, my eye often are really sore, and my mind often really blank. You know, I feel like my brain is dead, and I feel like really sluggish, and it's extremely challenging for me to get my brain into gear. You know, it's extremely hard for me to concentrate on something.
All right. So can you tell me when was the first time you used a computer?
So, to the best of my recollection, you know, when I was just a kid, about around 8 years old at that time, my brother introduced to me a game called Kingdom, you know, and I played it. I played it on my computer. So that was probably the first time that I touched the computer.
What did you feel when the first time you used it?
Um, it was pretty fascinating, you know. Since I felt that at that time, the internet and and computers were something really magical, simply because the invention of computers has completely revolutionized the world, you know, and it facilitate the online communication, and that was really unthinkable about 20 years ago. Since you can't even imagine talk to somebody who's maybe 100 kilometers away from you.
All right. And who taught you how to use a computer?
Uh, you know, if we're talking about using a computer, like turn off a computer, um, if my memory serves me correctly, it was my information teacher in my primary school. You know, he taught me he taught me, and he gave me step by step instruction about how to use a computer correctly.
Okay. One more question for this topic. What kinds of computers are popular in your country?
Um, so I think it totally hinges on the age group that we're talking about. So, as to the elderly, you know, they have a particular liking for reading newspaper. So, uh, small, neat, and tidy computers such as tablets or smartphones are definitely prevalent among those people. But when we talk about today's generation, they they make use of computers for many different purposes, such as designing something or coding. So it often requires much more power. So I think a much heftier and bigger desktop are definitely ubiquitous among today's generation.
All right. Now here are my comments. For fluency, can you try to use like other words instead of it's kind of repetitive somehow. So can you give me some more words instead of saying?
Um,
Does
I
it
mean,
connect
well, actually, maybe.
Actually, frankly speaking,
Okay.
you can pick 3 of them and to like take turns to talk about it.
Yeah.
Vocabulary quite good, like some idiomatic language, some collocations and common words. Really ubiquitous, good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Now let's look at grammar. It seems like sometimes you lack up s at the end of some words. For example, computer without computer. Is it correct? Regarding grammar points, so without a computer or without computers.
Without computers.
Okay. Unhappy place could be unhappy place for me, right? So like up the article. A lot of material sets here. Maybe you speak a little bit fast, so sometimes try to control ads.
Yes.
Again, chord facilitate good. Gabby. Okay. In terms of pronunciation, so try to use contraction. Without computers, my life could be or I'd be really.
Yes.
Okay. Everything else is good. So since the day that I have had a placement test for you, did you practice
Yeah.
a lot? I think it seems like
Ah.
your speaking skill is somehow improved a lot since that day, like a month ago, right?
Yeah. To be honest, I before any lesson from you, I always prepare the ideas for all of the questions and vocabulary and just like so. I've been putting the work, you know.
Okay. Good job. Now let's move on to old buildings. Do you like to visit old buildings?
Um, I think it totally depends on the building that we're talking about, you know. So if it's a old architecture with historical values and it presents some kind of cultural value of of the country, so I definitely have visited one of them. But on the other hand, if it's just an old building does nothing but takes up spaces, so I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay.
The ideas good. Now let's talk about vocabulary. Did you paraphrase the word like in the question? When the examiner asks you, do you like old buildings? They want what they want to hear from you could be.
Okay.
Do you say paraphrase the word like?
Enjoy, keen on, and
Okay, so
fun of.
it
Okay.
kind of depends. What I mean is actually whether I'm big on old buildings or not depends on the purpose or what kind of old buildings it is. So
Yes.
like big on or I mean to try to think
Yes.
2 or 3 words and use it in terms. Can you
Yes.
answer one more time?
Yeah.
Do you like old buildings?
Um. You know, it depends. So I have a particular fondness for old buildings that have historical value and they represent a country's cultural identity. You know, so for example, in Vietnam we have the Independent Palace, which is a witness to the glorious victory of Vietnamese armies over the Western colonialism.
All right. And do you think old buildings should be preserved?
Like I said before, it depends on the what building we're talking about. So, for dilapidated building that in the state of disrepair, it should probably be demolished to make way for such for affordable housing, for example. But on the other hand, if it's a historic building, so it should definitely be preserved and refurbished, or it could be repurposed into a tourist attraction to attract more tourists and make a little bit more money. Excuse me.
Okay, so do you prefer to live in an old building or a modern house?
Without the shadow of the doubt, I definitely prefer living in a modern house. Simply because safety is my primary concern. So many old buildings are dilapidated and they're often degraded. They can potentially collapse at any moment. So it's not safe for you to live in an old building.
Okay, so safety is the thing that I'm concerned most. So of course
Yeah.
I'd love to opt for living in a modern house.
Oh.
Modern is a common word. Can you paraphrase it?
Let me see.
You have the word top notch or state of the art.
State of the art. Okay.
The art house. Alright.
State of the art. Okay. Top notch. Okay.
So are there any old buildings you want to see in the future and why?
So like I said before, I'd like to see historic buildings in the future, simply because they are a good reminder of the past. They offer a window into the past of a country. So, for example, right behind my house, there is a temple of 4,000 years old, and I often visit that place to, pay my homage to my ancestors.
Pardon?
Pay my respect and homage to the ancestors.
To my ancestor. Okay. Okay. Now let's move on to reading. We have a lot to talk about this topic. First of all, these days, do you like reading books?
Well, actually, I wouldn't say that I am a bookworm, but I'm really into reading books. Since recently I've been trying to read at least 10 pages of book every day, and that's because all of the world knowledge is contained in those books, and by just reading some of them, by just learning some from them, I can really broaden my horizon and grow my mind.
So are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. So can you tell me, are there any disadvantages of reading books?
Disadvantages of reading books, so right now I can't think about any of the shortcoming or the downside of reading book, because it's all about benefit when we talk about reading book. Like I said before, read book help you a lot. Help you, you can broaden your knowledge, and now you can look at a problem from many different angles. So it's not even a downside when you talk about reading book.
And what is your favorite types of books?
So back in the day when I was a kid, the only type of book that would pique my interest would be Doraemon, the famous comic book from Japan. It had a quite amazing and exciting storylines and vivid illustrations. But right now, the type of book that would capture my attention would be biographies of famous people, public figures, those people who have great impact on people, such as Albert Einstein and the like. I can learn many things from their mistake, and I can roll by their advice.
Okay. So this one word here.
Illustration.
No, not this one. What I mean is this one. Kind of, type of. Can you have a common word to paraphrase for the kind of?
Sort of.
Not actually. So we have the word genre.
Okay, genre.
So, do you get a cold or cough?
I'm just a little bit sick right now, but I can move on.
Okay. Now let's move on to the next question. What was your favorite book as a child?
So, like I said before, the only genre book that would capture my attention, that would spark my interest, was Doraemon. The famous Japanese comic book, and it's really meaningful. It's taught me how to be a good friend who stand by my friends through thick and thin.
Okay. So, what can you learn from books? What can you learn from reading books?
So first of all, the first thing that's spring to my mind is patience. So it take a lot of time to read a book and learn a book. So that's the first thing that springs to my mind is the patience.
Anything
There,
else?
secondly, if you dig deeply into the information that the book gives you, so you can, learn many things from it. You can really broaden your mind and apply the knowledge to your real life problems.
Can you give me a specific example?
So, for example, I am not a really organized person, but by reading the book titled 7 Habits of Successful People, I now know how to prioritize what I should do first and what I should do after. So that's my my problem. That's my example.
All right.
Okay.
Now let's move on to meeting places. Where
Okay.
do you usually meet your friends?
So from my point of view, it depends on the nature of your company. What kind of friends you are going to meet, So in my case, if I am going to meet just regular friends or just acquaintances, I would probably go for a coffee shop. It would be nice, but when we're talking about my best friend, I often go to their houses and we would chip in and throw a big party together.
All right. How about where do you usually meet your family members?
Oh, that's the no-brainer. It's probably my family's house or my grandfather's house is that often the gathering place of my family. that's the most coziest place in the entire world, and all of the family members could gather around and talk about what they've done in the previous year and what their plan for New Year's. So it's definitely a house of family members, houses of family members.
All right. So we finished all the topics today. Should we move on to the next topic?
Next topic.
Yeah.
I haven't prepared though, but okay.
All right. Now let's talk about talents. Do you have any talents or something you are good at?
I have a knack for playing sport. And to be honest with you, going to the gym is one of my strong fortes, and the reason why I love doing sport is simply because it thanks to doing sport, I can strike up new relationships with many people while getting healthy.
Okay. So, do you think your talent can be useful for your future work, and why?
Absolutely. So one of my strong suit is strong communication. So I can communicate and I can talk to a lot of people. And at the end of the day, they often have a really liking for my style. So it would definitely be helpful for my future.
Okay. So, what kind of job would you like to work in the future?
Uh, you know, recent year there's been an increasing trend of companies going global. This is the era of globalization. So if I'm knowledgeable about international trade, chances are I will get hired by multinational companies. And that's why I can land a decent job. I can have a lucrative career in the future.
So you want to work in like international trade, right? Global
Yes.
trade.
Yeah, that's actually my major.
Okay. So, do you think anyone in your family has the same talent?
Absolutely. So I probably inherit the sense of humor from my dad. He can talk, he can socialize with many people, and people at the end of the day they would end up liking him. So it would bring my sense of humor of my dad. He passed it down to me.
Okay. You did mention about your ways at playing sports. So, does your father have the same talent?
To be honest with you, he's been quite busy, and he been busy for his whole life to make ends meet. So and he doesn't have the time for his hobby. His whole life is just working and providing for his family. So, but he's pretty strong. He has muscle, and so I would probably inherit the muscular body from him.
So, in the future, do you want to be a person like your father? A busy one?
Absolutely. My father plays a really active role in my life. So he like the guiding light to me. I've been always trying to model myself on him. So I would definitely be a better version of him in the future because I have his support from really early on.
Alright. Let's let's move on to sitting. What is your favorite place to sit down?
I've always been known as an introvert all my life. So my place would be a quiet corner in the coffee shop, So in that place, I could have a quality me time to contemplate about my future, to think about what I want to do. So that's probably my favorite place to sit down.
Okay. So, do you wanna answer again? Try to paraphrase the word favorite. Do you have any word to rephrase the word favorite?
My go-to place to sit down is a quiet corner in my
And
coffee
quiet.
shop.
Any word for quiet?
Tranquil or
Tranquil.
okay,
Stress
tranquil.
on the first or the second.
Tranquil, probably.
Okay, let's see it.
Tranquil.
Okay, tranquil.
How many glasses of water did you drink until now?
Yeah, I'm like the dragon water right now. Okay.
Can you answer again?
Tranquil. Okay. Tranquil. Thank you.
And again, what is your favorite place to sit down?
So, to tell you the truth, my go-to location to sit down is my favorite coffee shop, and a tranquil corner in my favorite coffee shop. So at that place, no distractions can come to my way, So I have the time, I have the quietness to contemplate about my future, what I want to do, So I've been on the journey to find myself, So that would be that probably be my favorite location to sit down.
All right.
Okay.
Do you feel sleepy when you are sitting down?
Not really, So it's totally hinges on what time we're talking about. So if we're talking about at night, So where if even in I stand, I could be I'm just sleepy even I'm standing, not I'm sitting. So it totally depends on what time we're talking about.
It seems like you use like a chunking words at the very first of your answer. Can you say that again?
What word?
I don't remember the first sentence of your answer.
Well, actually, it totally hinges on.
Can you spell
Hinges.
it?
It's like hinges. Hinge on. It's a word, probably.
Depends on?
Yeah, it's like depends on, but just another version. I was just trying to paraphrase this.
Okay. Where did you get this word from?
I've been reading a lot of books, and a nature of my major, international business, so it forces me to read a lot. So I came across these words maybe 1 or 2 times when I was in the microeconomics class. Yeah.
Was that from a book or on the slide of a professor at your university?
Yeah, probably. If my memory serves me correctly, it was from an article.
An article.
Yeah. Okay.
So when you were a kid, did you usually sit on the floor?
It was. I'm 22 now, so it was a long time ago when I was a kid, you know. So I didn't have this kind of image in my memory. So when you ask me this question, it doesn't conjure up any memory. So I didn't recollect this image. But as many kids, I was probably sitting on floors and crying for toys.
Okay, now let's move on to evening time.
Evening time.
Do you prefer to study in the morning or in the evening?
That's a no-brainer because I am a morning person. I am an early riser, you know. After a really good cup of black coffee, I can easily shake up the lethargic state of my mind and I can immediately focus on something. So most of the time I prefer morning. Morning is the best time for me to study, actually.
Now try to paraphrase this one.
Prefer lean on, more lean towards.
Okay, I kind of lean towards or anything else?
Favor A over B, probably.
Favor, prefer, A over B. Anything else?
Prioritize A over B.
Okay. Anything else? Or just that? Okay, either rather or I'm more into.
I'd rather.
Or I'll give my preference for something.
Yes.
Okay, again. Which do you prefer to study the morning or the evening?
So, well, to tell you the truth, I'm an early riser, you know, so I'm definitely the morning person. So after really a good cup of coffee, you know, I can shake up the sluggish and, you know, lethargic state of my mind. And after that, I can immediately focus on something and you know, I'm ready to devour the knowledge.
So, what do you usually do in the evening?
So in the evening, after a really long day at work, you know, I often come home, cook my meals, and recharge my batteries by playing video games with my friends, probably.
Do you have the same routine for all evening?
Yes, you know, I'm a boring guy. I always try to set. I always try to be more disciplined, you know. So in that way, it saves me time, and I can spend the time on all other things.
Okay. Do you remember what did you do in the evening when you were a little kid?
When I was a little kid, so when I was able to aware of my surrounding, at the age of 3, maybe 4, you know, in the evening, my dad would spend the time on teaching me how to properly ride a bicycle, you know. And the biggest accomplishment was when I was around 5 years old, my father allowed me to go to school by riding bicycle.
You ride a bicycle in the evening?
Right. Yes, probably. To the best of my recollection.
So, learn how to ride a bicycle in the evening. So, we're not the
Yeah.
afternoon or the morning.
In the morning, when I was a kid, you know, I wanted to sleep in, and I tried to sleep in every morning. you know, so I didn't want to wake up early. But about in the afternoon, at that time, my father was at work, you know, so he was busy at the time. So but in the evening, after a long day at work, he could, you know, spare a little bit of his time on teaching me how to write.
Okay.
Okay.
And one more question. Now let's talk about collecting things.
Collecting
Do you
things,
like
okay.
to collect something?
You know, actually, unfortunately, no. And that's because I haven't found something that really sparked my attention, you know, really piqued my interest. So, but in the future, if I can find my things, the thing that I'm really into, you know, I'm so into to the point that I want to amass the collections of that kind of things.
Okay, so how to improve to paraphrase this one in the future?
In the future, down the road.
The other role can be used at the end of the sentence.
Okay, the road. In the future, when I am older.
Anything else? Like in years to come? In years to come?
Years to come.
Or in a not so distant future, in the foreseeable future?
Okay. Foreseeable future. Write that down. Write that down.
Me?
Okay. Foreseeable future. You say?
But what do you mean when you say write that down? Me or you?
Me. I'm ordering myself. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, next one.
Yes.
Again, do you like to collect something?
Currently, you know, unfortunately, I haven't found something that really piques my interest, you know. I haven't found something that I'm so interested into to in order to amass a collection of that thing. But you know, in years to come, if I'm able to find something that really capture my attention, I would probably spend time and money on collecting that kind of things.
Okay, the last question, science. Do you think school children should have both science classes and art classes?
You know, it's no brainer since teaching children about art is as important as teaching children about math and such subjects, you know, simply because some children they have autistic tendency to be a good artist in the future, but not a scientist. So they can make money in that kind of way, you know. And art teaches children about the culture, the history of a country. So, and if you want to be a Vietnamese, for example, if you want to be a proper Vietnamese person, you have to know about the history of Vietnam.
So what you mean is kids should learn both science and art classes, right?
Yes.
Okay, just one word here. Try to use contraction of this one. Want to? Wanna?
Wanna
learn something more? Okay. And that's it for today. We've covered all the topics of part 1 already.
Yes.